Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg, and with me in the green room is your incredible co-host, Bobby Parrish. And we want to remind you that tonight, and every Monday actually, is interactive. This is an interactive broadcast. Please go over to Twitter and use the hashtag #NoMoreShame. And Bobby and myself are just so excited to be bringing you this 2-hour special tonight. And the topic for tonight's 2-hour special is predators. What is a predator? Are there different types of predators? Are there a little bit more sneaky predators or covert predators and then there are the overt predators? Like, what are the differences between an overt and a covert predator? We all have been talking for several months now about narcissists ever since we did our narcissistic abuse virtual event. We're going to talk a lot more about other types of predators besides narcissists during tonight's 2-hour special. So again, we are so excited to bring you this topic, and it is quite a doozy to unpack. That is why we are taking 2 hours to spend with you, answer your questions. And we do want to remind you that, as always, there is a complimentary downloadable resource that will facilitate and enhance tonight's broadcast if you are watching. So if you are tuning in live or if you are watching a replay, please go over to traumarecoveryuniversity.com and click on the tab that says Downloadables. You can also go over to nomoreshameproject.com and click on Downloadables. And if you are listening on a podcast platform such as iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, or even iHeartRadio, please remember, this is a video broadcast, and you can find us over on our Roku TV channel on any Roku device or any Roku television by simply doing a search for Trauma Recovery University. You can also hop over to YouTube and go to youtube.com/Trauma Recovery University TV. Without further ado, we're going to issue a trigger warning. I'm going to hand it over to Bobby, and we are going to dive right into content on tonight's 2-hour special on the topic of predators. Take it away, Bobby.
Hi, everybody. I hope that you had a good Christmas. I know that holidays can be hard for survivors, and so I'm hoping that it was as least stressful and as most enjoyable as it could be for you. I want to give a trigger warning for tonight's episode. We will be discussing childhood abuse. We will be discussing predators. So if you hear anything or you see something tonight that triggers you, just go ahead and turn the broadcast off, and you can come back to it later. Our broadcasts usually upload to YouTube within about an hour after we're done, so it'll be up later tonight. You can come back to it anytime you like. If you're watching this on a recorded basis, you can, of course, turn it off and then come back and resume it anytime that you like. We do not want this to be a source of stress for you. We want this to be a source of information and support. So please just go ahead and turn it off if you feel triggered. If you're in crisis or you need help urgently, we want to refer you to our wonderful friends at RAIN. That's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. And if you're in the U.S., you can reach them at 1-800-656-HOPE, H-O-P-E. That's their hotline 24/7. They also have a crisis chat feature that you can reach from anywhere in the world, and that's on their website, rain.org, RAINN.org. Sometimes there's a little bit of a wait. So if you're in the U.S. and you want help right away, you should use the hotline. If you're in the UK, and we have a large contingency of survivors in the UK community. You can get in touch with Samaritans. Samaritans.org has a crisis line, and they also have someone available via email, especially for survivors of sexual abuse. And her name is Jo, J-O, and you can reach her at Samaritans.org. So Jo at Samaritans.org. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Athena and I are here on the air. We would love to talk to you. If you have questions or comments, don't hesitate to tweet us using the No More Shame hashtag, and we will try to go ahead and get to every question and every comment that you guys have to send in. And in the meantime, we just want to welcome you. We're so glad that you're here. Like Athena said, this is a 2-hour special about predators. We did a 4-hour virtual summit this past summer about narcissists. And we have since then been fielding a lot of questions about narcissism and narcissists and narcissistic behavior. We've talked more about sociopaths. We've talked more about psychopaths. But the reality is that many predators don't qualify for one of those labels. And there is a very stringent criteria within the psychological community for labeling someone as having narcissistic, sociopathic, or psychopathic personality disorder. Some predators only have a few of those qualities. And so what we really want to focus on here tonight are predators who have predatory behavior, but they don't qualify as a full-blown narcissist. And you will find them in many, many places and disguised in many ways so that you don't begin to imagine that they're predatory until you fall into their trap.
Exactly.
So that's why Athena and I really wanted to do this broadcast tonight, because we're finding many people falling prey to predators because they haven't been told about the different kinds of predators that are out there other than full-blown narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths. So that's why we're here tonight, to give you the information that you need to identify predators and to learn how to not be vulnerable to their behavior. Does that sound right, Athena?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything you said is spot on, obviously. I think Bobby's and my deepest desire is for you, like we always have been talking about over the past couple of years of these broadcasts. We want to give you knowledge. We want you to have wisdom so that you can move forward and not fall prey to anyone that's an unsafe person. I mean, in my personal opinion, and I'm not saying that I can speak for Bobby, but usually we can speak for one another. Any unsafe person that has unsafe characteristic patterns, not like once they do something that's that's unsafe. Like all of us do that. All of us mess up. We all have certain characteristics about us that are unsafe. But the people that have a pattern of unsafe behavior, those are some people that we're talking about tonight. I personally, and I'm just going to speak for myself in my interactions and my dealings with the general community at large, whether it be here on my beautiful island of Maui or on the mainland or other places I've traveled. I know people who are predatory and who are unsafe and have predatory characteristics that are working at the bank, that are working in the church as pastors, that are in Bible study groups, that are in leadership roles, city councilmen, people that are in local government, people that are the pillars of the community. And that's sort of like what everybody sees. But the moment you peel back a couple of the layers and you look at the pattern, then that's what we're talking about, you guys. We're not talking about we're not only talking about people who are full-blown narcissists or sociopaths or psychopaths. We're not only talking about people that we talked about on our narcissistic abuse summit. Like, I'm already thinking of like 12 people in my head that have a pattern of predatory behavior. They do certain things that are very unsafe, and they do them over and over and over and over again with the intent to manipulate and get their way. And that is what we are talking about. So,
right.
Bobby,
that
your
is a
comments
predator.
on that.
Yeah, that is a predator in the most basic definition. And we'll talk about that when we put the one page up. But a predator and predatory behavior is all about someone using someone else to get their needs met. That's it. That's at its most basic definition. A predator is someone who uses someone else to get their needs met. And we'll go through a list of what the different needs might be, but that's it. That's the most boiled down, simple baseline definition we can give. So if someone is repeatedly lying about their financial situation to get other people to give them money, that's predatory behavior. If someone slides up next to you at a social function and says, hey, I don't really have any way to get home, and I have 20 friends with me sitting over here, and we all need a ride to different places that are 30 miles apart. You'll take us all, right? And when you say no, and they don't let up, and they bug you, and they bug you, and they bug you, and they bug you till you say yes to get them to leave you alone, that's predatory behavior because they're not honoring your boundaries.
Exactly. And they typically will want to flip the tables on you and shame you for not doing what they want you to do. You're a horrible person because you won't drive 20 people home that live 30 miles apart from one another. Shame on you. I thought you were a good Samaritan. Like, I thought you were a good person. I mean, I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Like, but you can't even give us a ride home. We've never asked you for anything before, and you just can't give us a ride home. I mean, like.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's predatory behavior.
Yeah.
So, it's not always the Ted Bundys or the Jeffrey Dahmers or even the,
the Night Stalker guy.
Yeah. Yeah. There are predators in our midst, and I would imagine you probably work with a few. You might have a neighbor or two that's predatory. You might have, some people at church, some people in social circles that you travel with, and you might have some people in your family. And for most of us, the first predator we ever encountered was our abuser. And an abuser, of course, is an extreme example of a predator. But predators do use abusive behaviors to get their needs met. Some people do.
And a lot of the time, you guys, it's very covert. Like, for instance, like one of the predators that I'm thinking about right now loves to sort of like lure his employees in to, like, by complimenting his employees, by telling them what a great job they're doing. And gosh, without you being the pillar of the company and you're the backbone, you're the reason why this company succeeds. And then as soon as they lure the employees in, then all of a sudden they pile on 12 times more work that isn't even realistic for anyone to be able to accomplish. And they've been doing it for years and years and years. But this person lives to see the company succeed. Like, they want the company to succeed. They'll do anything. They'll put aside their own needs, everything that has to do with them personally, and they'll sacrifice it all just so the company can do well, because they know that the boss really appreciates them. And you guys, that's predatory. That's predatory behavior. This boss is is piling all of the responsibility onto one person and giving him a big fat pat on the back while he's sacrificing his own health, relationships. There's no balance in his life. There's nothing, but the boss is using this person to prosper. Because of this one person knowing what they're doing, the boss is making a whole bunch of money, like a lot of money. So that's predatory behavior. I mean, I hope you guys see a pattern in what it is that we're talking about. Like someone that is that sees a weakness in someone and sees a tenderness in someone, and so they exploit that, and they sort of they sort of suck that person in, and they're like, wow, you know, oh gosh, I just love it that you guys are coming over and spending time with us these last few weeks. It's been so wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for coming over. We love having you. Thank you so much. And then the moment you don't show up, the moment that you don't come over to hang out with them, then all of a sudden you're on the top of their shit list. Sorry for the language. But yeah, and then all of a sudden you get the cold shoulder. Like they like it as long as you're doing something that they want you to do. Like they want you to do something, they compliment you on it. And then the moment you're not doing something or you're not in their good graces, then they sort of like, you don't exist anymore. You're like, you're invisible. Because
punishing.
Yeah, they punish you.
Yes.
Because for some reason.
Yes.
Exactly, because for some reason, Bobby, you coming over to their house to hang out with you at a certain time or whatever when all these other people are there, for some reason that does something for them. Like it meets a need. They need to feel needed. They need to feel wanted. They need to feel accepted. They need to feel appreciated. They need to have you there hanging out with them for one reason or another. And then as soon as you don't do what they want you to do, then all of a sudden, like Bobby said, they punish you with their silence. They withdraw their love from you because you are no longer behaving according to what they want you to. That is predatory. Predatory.
Punishment, that emotional punishment. And we'll talk about that a little. That's a key sign of a predator. So if someone punishes you because you don't do what they want you to do, that's a huge red flag. Huge.
Yeah.
Should we put up the one page?
Yeah, I think diving into content is a good idea. Like, because we get so excited about this. A lot of this stuff is in the downloadable, you guys. But I think what we're really just the point we're trying to drive home for you guys is these are patterns. These are patterns. This isn't a one-time occurrence. These are unsafe behaviors that are perpetuated over time, and we want you to be aware of them when you see them. If someone, when you start hearing these unsafe characteristics, you might even see yourself in them. This is what I wanted to look at people's faces and say, Bobby, before we switch to content. You might see yourself. Bobby and I talked off the air about this, and we really want to drive this home to you guys, okay? There are many very empathic people in our community. You guys are the reason we show up every week. We love you. You are here, by definition, you are here because you want to get well. You want to live a life of wholeness. You want to be in peace, and you don't want to be preyed upon. You are going to see yourself in some of these characteristics tonight. We are not telling you, you're a predator because one time in 1979, you acted that way. I remember. Like, no, that's not what we're saying. I see myself in some of these examples, but do I act like that all the time? Is it something that I do every day? Is it a habit? Bobby, your comment on that, just real quick before we switch to content.
Exactly. We're looking at patterns of behavior, and the key point is that we behave this way in order to get our needs met. Okay? So sometimes I am going to come into a room and I'm going to be so upset that people are going to focus their attention on me and help me feel better. I'm not doing that because I want the attention, or I thrive on being the center of attention, and I suck all that in to make myself feel better. I'm doing that because for some reason at that moment I am feeling genuinely broken. It is not my intent to use anyone. It is not my intent to continue to play up my upset feelings until I have filled myself to the brim with attention. So we're looking at patterns and we're looking at intent. If the behavior you exhibit is not a pattern, like Athena said, and I love that, if you did it once in 1974, that's not a pattern.
Exactly. You're going to see yourself in these. You're going to go, oh, I do that. I do that. Oh my gosh, am I a predator? Like,
right.
You're going to know that, like, that's not your norm. But if you see yourself, now this is the flip side of the coin before we switch over to content, you guys. You see yourself in some of this and you think, this is my modus operandi. This is kind of how I operate. I didn't even realize it, but this is what I do. Oh my gosh, I must have learned this somewhere. This is a learned behavior. I've been predatory.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a choice right now that every single time I do this, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to call myself out, and I'm going to make it a focus every day of my life to not be this way. That's a choice that you have if you see yourself in any of this.
Yes, and
That's
chances are high that if you were raised by a predator, you might have some of these characteristics.
Yeah.
Because that's what you were taught. That's what was modeled for you. But you can change that. You absolutely can.
It's always a choice.
It's always a choice. For people who are full-blown narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, it is ingrained in their personality. It is a pervasive personality disorder. For the rest of us, it's a behavior that we've learned, or that's something that we picked up that got our needs met in some way, and we can always change it. Always, always, always a choice. And tonight's one page is a 2-page. For the first time ever in Trauma Recovery University, we have a 2-page rather than a 1-page because we could not fit all the information in on 1 page. So I was giving Athena a hard time because she sent me an email with the attachment that said Predators 2. And I thought, why is she sending me something about a movie? You know? I'm like, a movie? Why is she sending me about a movie?
I thought it was Predator 2-hour special. I'm sorry.
No. The subject line in your email, and the first thing my mind went to was, why is she emailing me about a movie? Predators 2. I didn't even know Athena liked horror movies. So anyway, just so you know ahead of time, our typical 1-page is in fact a 2-page.
Oh, Bobby, we had, just before we really quick, we have some people tweeting in questions. We're going to go ahead and do like a Q&A sort of at the end or like throughout, guys. Grace wanted to know how to cut ties with people who are toxic/predators. We're going to cover that in the 2-page. So, and the other questions that you guys are tweeting in, we'll go ahead and answer those as we get going on into the 2-page content.
Yes. Okay, so let me do my screen sharing thing, my screen sharing magic. Magic. Okay, there we go. Can you see it, Athena?
I sure can.
And I cannot. Sorry.
It always takes your end a second for you to be able to see it for some reason, but we see it perfectly. The moment that it goes dink, we see it.
Dink. Dink. Okay. And another thing that's been going through my mind all day is that stupid Gilligan's Island theme song. 2-hour tour.
Is it 3-hour tour?
Oh, see, I had it wrong, and it's still going through my head. Okay, so let's talk about some examples and different ways that people can be predatory. At the most basic level, like we talked about earlier, a predator is someone who uses someone else to meet their needs. And how do they do that? They can use physical, financial or verbal coercion. Okay, coercion means making someone do what you want to do. So they're either going to verbally berate you, they're going to, blackmail is financial coercion. Okay, I'm going to tell someone that you did this unless you pay me money. And physical coercion, I'm going to kill you unless you do this for me.
I'm going to hurt your family.
Yes. How many of us heard that when we were little, huh?
Yep. You'll be sorry. There'll be hell to pay. You're going to pay the price.
Any type of force, passive-aggressive behavior, okay? So passive-aggressive behavior, we'll do a tiny little diversion over here to give you a passive-aggressive behavior 101. Passive-aggressive behavior is a behavior that appears passive, but is actually aggressive in its intent, okay? And the classic example of passive-aggressive behavior is the silent treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, they are not appearing aggressive with you, right? They're not verbally or physically pummeling you. They are appearing to be passive. They are doing nothing. Passive means being completely peaceful in their approach. But their goal is to control your behavior. Okay? That's what passive-aggressive behavior is. It is behavior that appears to be peaceful, but has the purpose of controlling you. Okay? So passive-aggressive behavior is a huge red flag for someone being predatory. They want you to do something that meets their needs, but they don't want to overtly appear to be predatory. So they're going to do this soft shoe two-step around you, getting you to do what they want. Okay, so they'll use force, passive-aggressive behavior, manipulation, and this is a kicker, and this is one that Athena and I really want to concentrate on tonight. Even positive things, such as flirting and displays of affection. Within the narcissism community, there's a topic that there's a definition, a term called love bombing. And Athena, I think you might have better examples or definitions of this than I do because you've studied this a little bit more. What is love bombing?
Okay. Thank you so much, Bobby. So love bombing, you guys, in the narcissistic community. Now, a lot of people think that love bombing only happens when you're involved with a narcissist as a relational, like a
romantic relationship?
Like a romantic relationship companion, but that is not the case. Love bombing is when your abuser, your predator, your narcissist showers you with exactly what they know you need. Now, this can be affirmation that you're doing good in school. This can be your boss, who is the narcissist, showering you with compliments and perhaps even a raise or a promotion. This can be someone, a teacher at school. They're making you sort of the teacher's pet. This can be a narcissistic or a predatory love interest, obviously showering you with affection and flowers and texting you and showering you with all kinds of love, whatever they think your love language is. If it's words of affirmation, if it's physical touch, if it's gifts, if whatever speaks to you the most, they will seek that out and they will test the waters, and then they will give it to you in an abundance to the point where you are like on cloud nine. You are floating in the ether. You are so, you couldn't be more grateful if someone gave you $1 million. You are just so filled up to overflowing, and you are so on cloud nine because finally, you are receiving the love that you've wanted your whole entire life. And then guess what? They're setting you up, you guys. They're setting you up Because what comes after that is that they start withdrawing their love from you. They start devaluing you. They use that ether that they have you under to manipulate, to control, and to sometimes even harm you. And then when you flinch or move away from the harm that they're doing to you, they flip it on you and they go, but you loved me so much a few weeks ago, but you sure loved it when I took you out to eat, but you sure loved it when I gave you that promotion at school. Oh, you sure loved it when you were the teacher's pet. Huh, well, we'll just see how you like it now if you're not going to do what I want you to do. They want something from you. And they use that love bombing to suck you in. And guess what, guys? Guess what? The moment you get healthy boundaries, the moment you have a solid, healthy self-esteem, can you tell I'm getting just a little bit fired up, Bobby? Sorry if I'm hurting your ears.
No.
The moment you get solid and healthy and you have great self-esteem and you are like, you are going to notice, you're going to be like, whoa, 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 wait a second. Why is this dude wanting to propose to me when he barely even knows me? We've only been dating for a few months. Are you kidding me right now? Why are they making me the teacher's pet? I didn't even do anything that special. I just answered the same as everybody else was answering. Why am I getting the promotion? Wait a second here. This person over here produced way more than I did. Why are they showing me that much attention? There's something fishy about that, and it's giving me a little check in my gut. My gut tells me that I'm being set up for something here, and I'm not going to fall for it. And guess what? People with healthy boundaries and a healthy self-esteem become aware of this love bombing, and they don't fall for it, you guys. They actually walk away. They actually assert a healthy boundary and say, you know what? Like, I know you really want to be in contact with me and you really love texting me all hours of the night, but my phone's going to be off from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., so I'll get back to you when I can. Or I know you want to call on me and like have me answer all the questions in class, but I feel a little bit awkward. I think I would prefer if maybe you called on some other students. And, you know, I know you want to give me this promotion, you think I'm doing all this or whatever, and you think I'm really fantastic, but honestly, so-and-so outperformed me 2 months in a row, and I'm just wondering why perhaps they didn't get the promotion. And it takes a lot of cojones, you guys. It takes a lot of balls to actually stand up for yourself and be like, wait a second here, this doesn't feel quite right. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You're giving me all this attention, basically, and I'm just wanting to let you know that I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable with it all. I think I'd prefer if we sort of maybe take a step back from one another. It takes a very healthy self-esteem and a very solid sense of being to be able to stand solidly on your own 2 feet and go, whoa, 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 wait a second. I don't think that this is something that I'm really comfortable with. I'm sorry. But predators see and they seek out people so that they can love bomb them. Like I'm just going to use a bar scene as an example, even though it's a horrible example. You and 5 of your friends walk into a bar. If you are a person that was abused and you're feeling pretty like insecure, you might walk in with your shoulders held just a little bit low, looking at the ground, and then you might look up to see if anybody's looking at you. And then they catch your eye and they lock eyes with you because they were staring at you. And they look for your response, and they look to see if you feel a little bit awkward or that you're a little bit surprised that they would be looking at you. And then they check to see if you keep looking over at them, because someone that has very low self-esteem is going to be excited to have one person out of all the hundreds of people there paying attention to just them. They just need to be the center of attention. They just need it because they've never, ever, ever had love. So then they proceed to love bomb you. They swap numbers with you. They send you text messages. They send you flowers. They invite you out on a date, blah, blah. I mean, this happens all the time. This happens in churches. You guys, you're the new person on the block. You come to a church. Guess what? So-and-so and their whole family invites you over for dinner every single week so that you feel immediately loved on and you feel like you're a member of their family. And then you start to figure out, wait a second here, what do they want from me? Like, they're asking me to do things that I normally wouldn't do. So I hope that explains love bombing to the point where I gave you enough examples. But Bobby, what are your comments on that?
I'm going to give you a real life example. That almost parallels one you already talked about. I'm getting an echo on my mic. Can you hear it?
Oh, you sound perfect to me.
Okay.
Not in my ears. In my ears, you
Okay.
sound great. I don't know about everybody else, but
Okay.
you sound great.
It went away. After my first husband left me, okay, so he had an affair, young, pretty, beautiful young woman, about 4 years younger than me, left me. I was devastated, just flat out devastated. And I didn't date for a long time, stayed away from people. But there was a gentleman at work, so I had known him since I started working there 4 years ago. We'd known each other. And he asked me out. And I thought, okay, he's safe. I know him, right? I've known him for 4 years. Nice guy. A lot of people like him. Okay, I'm good. I'm good to go. And almost immediately, he started in with the love bombing stuff. And within maybe about a month, maybe not even a month of when we started dating, he was talking about getting married. And I had that, like you said, that check in my gut. And I went, no, can't do that. Way too early, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept at it. And he kept at it, and he kept at it, and he kept at it. And with the, come on, don't you want to get married? And the love bombing, though, at the same time. And here I was, I'd come out of a relationship where my heart was just broken. And I was in the middle of my recovery. I didn't have contact with my family. I was just thirsty for attention. And finally, after about another month, he asked again, and I said, yes. Okay? I kid you not, no more than a week later, he told me he had met someone else and he was seeing someone else.
Wow.
And I was heartbroken because I felt so played, right? I had felt that no inside me, and I knew somewhere inside me that was not right, but I was so hungry for that love that I eventually gave in to the pressure. And then he had what he needed. He had pursued, he had caught, he had won, he was done.
Yeah.
There was no manipulation afterwards. He had no desire to have any more contact with me. That was it. He was done. On to the next. Because he got what he needed, which was the thrill of the pursuit and the thrill of the win. And
wow.
So it happens.
I'm so sorry, Bobby.
Yeah, and it happens to people like me. I fell for it. That was 23 years ago, but still, I get it, and it happens. And so if you encounter a situation like that, it's real. If you fall victim to a predator and you're kicking yourself afterwards going, why didn't I listen to that small voice inside my head? You know what? Sometimes it just happens. We were set up as children to be hungry for approval. We just were.
Yeah.
And it gets us into trouble sometimes. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and that love bombing is powerful stuff.
You know
for those
what?
of us who are hungry.
It is so powerful, Bobby, and I just want to acknowledge that you were being treated the way you deserve to be treated. You really did deserve to be loved, and you deserve to be cared for, and you deserve to be pursued. And it's so difficult to discern what is a safe level of pursuit and love and what is an unsafe level. But like you said, that check in your gut that you got, that is what we want you guys to learn to listen to and to sort of, I don't want to say obey, but yeah, like
honor it,
honor that check in your spirit, honor it. I wanted to give an example, Bobby, of what you were talking about. Just reminded me of something. Can I share really quick also?
Absolutely.
So, okay, guys. So you guys all know that I'm a woman of faith. And so I really, really, really enjoy Bible study. I love reading my Bible. I love learning. I love learning about like what God says about me. And like, I love it all. Like I'm a student at heart, and I love learning. So there's this one particular Bible study that I had gone to for a long, 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 long time. I had been going there for a while, and it was just a Bible study that I enjoyed. And I was always welcomed with open arms. I had an opportunity. I got invited to go to a different Bible study that was with a whole bunch of women that I was so excited to get to know, because they were similar to me in that they really wanted to volunteer in the community. Like they wanted to go out and like, and be involved and active in our community. And so I was kind of excited, and a lot of them are my age, and some of them were single moms. I just had a lot in common. And one of them was a survivor. And so anyway, I was so excited to go to this other Bible study. So I did. I went, and it happened to be on the exact same night as this other Bible study. And so like I wasn't there or whatever. So then there was a special event that it was like a guest speaker, a famous person came to our little island. And my husband and I drove over on like a Saturday or something to spend the day to hear this person speak. Well, one of the Bible study people at Bible study that was like one of like the hosts or whatever, saw me there. And I had just recently, my son had just gotten deployed. I was really, really, really like struggling. I was at like a really kind of a low point because I felt just kind of spinny. Like, he was deployed to another country. Our country's at war. I'm not really going to hear from him for several months at a time. Like, just that detaching process of when you are an empty nester, it really is just quite unsettling. So
it's hard.
It's so hard. Oh my gosh, so hard. But I mean, I'm coming out the other side of it right now, so I feel a little bit more solid and not so wobbly. But at that moment when we were going to watch this guest speaker, I was feeling pretty wobbly, to be quite honest. And I saw the Bible study leader there. They had driven over to watch this guest speaker also. And I came out and came over and just was saying hi to some people and went over and gave them a hug or whatever. And under their breath, they said, gosh, it sure seems, I sort of sense a little bit of neediness going on here. Like, just under their breath, they said that. Like,
labeling you needy?
Yes, that I was, because I gave them a hug just a little bit too long because they were a safe person. I thought they were a safe person, and I was just really struggling. And so I just needed a hug. I just needed a hug. And so here I reached out for that hug, which I thought was a safe hug. And under their breath, they said, oh, well, sense a little neediness going on here. Like, not even like it was meant for me to hear it. It was almost like they accidentally said it out loud. Like they were saying their thoughts out loud, right?
Right.
And, my husband's home early, you guys. Hi, honey. I'm recording. They can't see you because we have the PDF up. So, but yeah, so at that moment, I got that little check in my spirit that we talked about, Bobby.
Right.
I got that little check in my spirit, like, that wasn't right. That was really exploitative. Like kick you when you're down sort of a situation, right? And I just logged it in my little file, like, I need to remember this. And ever since then, I've sort of been like, very, 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 very aware. And the behavior, and it was exactly that. There was the love bombing stage, and then all of a sudden, when it wasn't, you're no longer able to provide whatever it was that they wanted, they withdraw, and they sort of make sure that they know that you are disapproved of. And then that's it. They move on to the next person. That's it. Kick to the curb. Yep. Straight up predator style. So, I mean, it happens everywhere, you guys. Bobby and I just gave you two very practical examples of predatory behavior. that might not have been viewed as predatory behavior to you previously had you not known about these two stories. So log those two stories that we just shared with you into your memory bank, and remember that gut feeling. Remember that check in your spirit that you get when it's just a little too thick, a little too much, and you're getting a little too lured in, because that is not solid ground. You're not standing on solid ground at that point if you're under the ether like that.
I think one of the other things that I want to point out real quick before I go back to the one page is that the two stories that Athena and I have both just shared are real life examples. We were particularly susceptible in those moments because we were in the middle of an emotionally vulnerable time.
Exactly.
So put that piece of information in your head right now. When I am feeling emotionally vulnerable, I can be more susceptible to predators than when I'm feeling emotionally solid.
Yes.
Okay? So put that piece of information in your brain and know that when you are feeling emotionally vulnerable, you may need to have stronger, thicker boundaries than you normally do. So that, I think that's a key thing. And we'll talk about that a little more when we talk about strategies, but that's a common denominator that I heard in both of what we were talking about.
Hey, Bobby, Colin was saying, I didn't mean to cut you off. Colin says that he's been learning a lot about narcissists lately, and it seems like predators conform to that type. It's a yes and a no. It's not necessarily always so.
Well, I think that predatory behaviors, that narcissistic qualities have a lot in common with predatory behaviors. Not every predator is a narcissist. Every narcissist is a predator.
Yes. There you go. I'm
trying to remember what kind of logic that's called. Oh, my college professor would be very disappointed in me.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the word right now, but yes.
I can't either.
Example.
Okay. All right. So let's go back. We're an hour into our broadcast, and we are on the second paragraph of the 2-page. Oh my. Okay. But we talked about a lot of these things. Yes. Okay. So the most dangerous predators. Okay. Wait. We're still in the first paragraph. In terms of talking about what are the needs that a predator is fulfilling, and they can be anything, and we've listed a bunch here. They could have a need for attention. They could have a need for possessions. Power and control are huge motivators for predators. Money, security. Okay, security is a big one for people who come off as more covert and soft narcissists.
Yes.
They think that they are not secure or they are not worthy of your attention unless they are behaving in a needy or manipulatively a helpless way. Okay?
Yes,
and they're looking for security.
Yeah.
They want admiration, pleasure, or they want superiority. It's about proving that you're lesser than they are. The most dangerous predators are narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths because their predatory behavior and thinking is ingrained in their personality. Others may have some of the same qualities of narcissism or sociopathy, but not enough to qualify as having the clinical label. Okay, so they don't have the full-blown pathology that would allow a psychologist or psychiatrist to label them as a narcissist. But they still have a high potential for danger and can leave a trail of emotional and physical damage in their wake. And I forgot to say in there too that they can often leave a trail of financial damage in their wake.
Oh, yeah.
Pedophiles are an example of predators who are highly dangerous, but don't always fully qualify as narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths. Some pedophiles are people who have some contorted thinking about sexual relationships and absolutely no impulse control.
Yeah.
None. They are not narcissists, and they're not psychopaths, and they're not sociopaths.
But they have yes, they have a desperate need. They have a desperate need to fulfill that. They have a desperate need to fulfill their needs at any cost, period, 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 period.
Exactly. And so they're still predators, and they are obviously ferociously dangerous predators, but they do not fall, some of them do, okay?
Yeah,
some full-blown. Others, no, but they're still very dangerous predators.
Well, and pedophilia, it's worth mentioning, Bobby, that pedophilia, I mean, while it does have some of the similar characteristics to sociopathy, psychopathy, and narcissism, pedophilia, it does fall into that sort of sneaky, covert sort of a deal, because pedophiles look like normal members of society. Oftentimes, pedophilia is hidden and covered with 10,000 coping strategies that makes them look like the pillar of the community. Like, they are in leadership roles, they have extensive vocabularies, they have, but there's this whole second life that they're living, like behind the scenes quite often, that other people do not know about. So it's not that, like Bobby said, they're not full-blown narcissists, but pedophilia, it does have some different hints of narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy, like woven into it. But it's just not able to be fully diagnosed as that.
No. But again, the common denominator, they're using someone else to get their needs met. That's the common denominator amongst all predators. And we're going to see that when we talk about this in this next paragraph, because some predators are softer and more covert in their approach to getting their needs met. These individuals prey upon those, especially those of us with high levels of compassion and empathy, by openly and frequently telling a tale of woe about their difficulties. And by doing this, demanding attention and focus of those around them so that they have a captive audience for their story. They may want tangible items such as money, but they probably are more likely seeking intangible items such as attention and sympathy. And these are the individuals who feel insecure, and they think the only way they're deserving of attention is if there's something wrong with them. This is the psychopathy that underlies Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And that's been kind of in the news lately. And it's where parents will make their child sick in order to so they can get the attention that they feel that it brings to them. So someone who comes into a situation and tells their tale of woe to everyone who will listen, never asks anyone else, how are you doing? They're never interested in hearing how someone else is doing. So when you might say, I've had a hard day too, they'll cut you off and continue telling their story because they want to be that center of attention. They have that deep-seated need for approval and to be labeled as valuable, but they don't know any way to get that other than to demand it with their tale of woe.
I have a perfect example of this that just happened today, Bobby.
Okay, hit me.
In one of our communities, I'm not going to share this person's identity because obviously I haven't asked them if it's okay, but they were preyed upon as a child by a family member, and they were really missing this family member, and they had had a healthy boundary and they weren't in contact with this family member for quite some time, but they were really missing this family member. And one of their other family members said, you know what, why don't you just get back in touch with them? You know, it would be a good idea for you to get back in touch with them. And so for some reason, they decided to. They got back in touch with this person, and this person meaning their predator, meaning their abuser, okay, from their family. And because they had really missed this person. And so here they were, and they had developed a relationship on text message where they would be texting back and forth pretty much on a daily basis. And it was usually, here we go, guys, it was usually just small talk. It was usually just very surfacey. Now, the abuser would be telling this other person, the member of our community, all kinds of different stuff, you know, but most of it was just on the surface. One day, the abuser text messages one of our community members and says, how are you doing today? And our community member responded, you know what, I kind of had a little bit of a rough night last night with my PTSD. Nothing. Crickets. Several hours went past. Not a response, not a, I'm sorry that you're struggling with your PTSD. How can I help? Or are you feeling a little bit better now? Is there anything I can do to help? Not any type of empathy or compassion whatsoever. Several hours passed, and then there was a text message that came through that was all about the abuser. Like all about something totally off topic. Like never even acknowledged what was going on with our community member that I'm talking about right now. That is a perfect example of more of a covert situation, because you're there, you're in the relationship, there's a banter going back and forth. It seems like it's a normal, quote unquote, normal relationship because there's reciprocity. Relationships are reciprocity. You reciprocate. One person shares, the other person shares. When it's surfacey and it's about the weather or it's about what they bought at the grocery store or something that doesn't involve anything really important, that still can be technically considered a relationship. But the moment the community member that I'm talking about actually went a little bit deeper and shared that they happened to be struggling a little bit that day, the abuser cut them off completely because it wasn't all about, they weren't in control of the conversation anymore. Boom, cut them off. Several hours went by, and then it was just like as though they never spoke. Their end of the conversation did not even exist. If you are in a one-sided relationship and your voice doesn't matter, guess what? That's a monologue. That's not a relationship. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be cared about. And we're not saying, like, Bobby will sometimes send me a text message and I won't even realize she sent it to me until like a couple days later because maybe my phone was open when it came through, so it never made like a ding ding sound. But like, that doesn't mean that on a regular basis I ignore Bobby's text messages and then only contact her when I want something from her. No, like, we have a relationship. She messages me, I message her. I email her, she emails me, like, and there's grace there. Like, if she doesn't respond or I don't respond, it's okay. Like, we know we have an actual relationship where there is reciprocity. There's return on that relationship. Our relationship is cultivated, it's growing, it ebbs and it flows, and I care about her and she cares about me. We are business partners, we are friends. But if you are in a relationship where you are emotionally depleted and exhausted, invariably because you give way more than you receive, that could be an opportunity for you to pause and check in with yourself and ask you if it may be time for you to take a little bit of a break from that relationship or not invest as much of yourself into it. Not because you want something from another person and now you're the predator, but because relationships and friendships are meant to be healthy. Bobby?
One of my favorite sayings is, you are not required to light yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love that because I see that so often, especially for those of us who are survivors, and we're so empathic and we're so compassionate, and we see someone who's sitting alone and they're freezing, and the only way we can get them warmth is to light ourselves on fire. But it's not healthy.
No, because it's to your detriment.
Healthy.
You're on fire now.
Yes. And or what's the other common saying that's out there now? Don't make someone a priority who only makes you an option.
Oh, that's really popular. I see a whole bunch of memes out there that say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are doing all the heavy lifting in your relationship, no, it's not a healthy relationship. It's just not.
Exactly.
Not. And if someone is sitting back and reaping the benefits of all the healthy work that you're doing, all the hard work that you're doing, that's predatory. Yeah. Because they are using you to get their needs met.
And you deserve to be in healthy relationship with someone who treasures you. Like, I've had my share of predators. I've had my share of horrible abusers, but I'm married to a wonderful man now who sees me as a human being. And we have a healthy relationship. Is it perfect? Is he perfect? Am I perfect? No, and no. But we have an understanding, and we have an actual relationship, and he cares for me and I care for him. And it's not like he walks into the room and starts talking about himself and then disregards everything I have to say, or sends me a text message and then never responds to mine. Like, there's reciprocity involved. And you know what? I'm sure that if I was freezing, my husband might just light himself on fire to help me out. But would I let him? No, I would not let him, because I don't want him to help me to his detriment.
Right.
Honestly, if you're in a relationship with someone, if you are in a relationship with someone who would allow you to let yourself on fire just to keep them warm, that is a cause for pause. Pause and reflect.
And I used to say this a lot when I would do marriage counseling. When you love someone, you want what's best for them. You don't want you're not looking out just for your best interest. You're looking out for their best interest. You want what's best for them. You want them to be happy. And so, of course, you don't want them to light themselves on fire.
Exactly.
Help me find firewood. Help me find matches, whatever. But I do not want you to light yourself on fire. Absolutely not.
I forbid you to do that.
Yeah, but I do want to be a priority in your life, especially because I have put you to be a priority in mine. If you can't do that, that's fine. But I would like you to let me know so I can make choices about whether or not I'm going to stay in the relationship or move on. And this is any kind of a relationship, friends, family members, romantic relationships, even sometimes business relationships. Sometimes you may have, obviously you don't have any control if you're both employees of the same employer. But, if you have someone that you work with, a vendor, or a partner or somebody in your business, and the relationship has become toxic and they are predatory, if you need to separate yourself from that relationship, it's absolutely fine. And it's healthy to do that. Okay, let's see. I'm losing myself. Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was tweeting. I was trying to catch up on all the tweets, and I want to tell everybody out there. I just want to tell Denise and Colin and Sarah and Melissa and August and just everybody out there that is tweeting in live and sharing with us that you're having light, and Julianne and Grace and just everybody, all your light bulb moments. And everything that is going on right now, we're celebrating with you. We are throwing invisible confetti and celebrating with you right now that you're having these light bulb moments. However, we want to caution you, please practice excellent self-care. If you are getting triggered, if your mouth is dry, if your heart is beating fast, if your hands are clammy, please just press the pause button, walk over, run some cold water over your hands, walk outside, feel the wind on your face, get yourself a cup of tea, do something and take excellent care of yourself, and then come back and press play. We're grateful for your light bulb moments. This is why we do everything we do, so that you will be equipped, but we don't want it to be to your detriment. This is a perfect example of us not allowing you to set yourself on fire for any reason, because you matter. We want you to be safe. So please, 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 if you're triggered, press the pause button and walk away. Bobby, your thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. You're worth more than that.
Exactly.
You think you're worth more than that. Okay, so tweeting and talking, not Bobby's strong suit.
Me too.
Okay, so there that goes. Okay.
But see, this is exactly what I thought would happen. See, Sarah said, why is it that we automatically think that we're becoming predators? We were trained, Bobby, just jump in anytime. Yep. We were trained by master manipulators from birth to make us believe that everything was our fault because our abusers were predatory and they wanted us to take all the blame for everything. And so we automatically are paranoid that we're going to be anything like them. And so our first response is, uh-oh, am I a predator? Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. And I'm just telling you, unless these things that you're seeing on the one page are your modus operandi, it is how you operate on a day in and day out basis, it is a pattern in your life, then the answer is no, you're not a predator. If you see yourself on these characteristics and it is something that you do on a regular basis, then that is, again, cause for pause. And perhaps, let's readjust our priorities and make a choice. No, I'm not going to do these things anymore.
And look at your intent.
Yes.
Okay, your intent. Let's move down. Here we're going to show some red flags and warning signs of a predator. So I think this will help everyone get a better idea of what a predator is. But really quick, I'm going to run through these next two paragraphs. Predators seek out victims, attempting to coerce, force, or manipulate their way into their lives. Once there, they will use that victim until the victim has nothing left to give, or until they refuse to continue to be a source for the predator to get their needs met. And then the predator will move on to another target or victim. Some predators can have multiple victims at the same time. The danger to their victims, the danger their victims are in is often unknown until it's too late. Okay? So you don't really realize you've fallen in the pit until you're in the pit. No one is the wiser, as these covert predators are masters at playing the role of the victim, right? The shifting the blame. It wasn't me. She wanted me to move in here, and she said it was okay if I didn't get a job, if I could take a break to get back on my feet. And she gave me the money. I didn't ask her for money. And I don't keep anything here in the house clean or anything, but she said that was okay, and she likes to do housework. So again and again, it's that role of the victim, role of the victim, role of the victim. Oh, woe is me. As survivors of childhood abuse, we've already encountered at least one predator, our abuser. Due to the damage caused by our abuse, such as low self-esteem and feelings of powerlessness, okay? Remember, that's one of the primary lies that our abuse teaches us, is that we are powerless. We can be susceptible to other predators. Learning how to identify and avoid predators is a very important skill for us to acquire. So let's look at red flag warning signs of a predator. Okay, boundary busting. Okay, this is like what I was talking about when I met that man who, after 30 days, wanted to get married and pushed at me and pushed at me and pushed at me and pushed at me until I gave in. That's boundary busting. Okay, they don't honor your boundaries. You can say to them, like Athena talked about, I don't want to receive text messages 24 hours a day. So if you could please not text me after 10 o'clock at night, I would really appreciate that. So you set that boundary. But you can't turn your phone off because maybe your spouse is out of town for work or your child is away from home and you need to be able to have your phone on. And guess what? That person still texts you at midnight. Look, I know you said you didn't, but I really need, I want, I have to. Okay, so it's outside their control. They have to bust your boundaries. No matter how often you set them or how strongly you set them, they will be boundary busters. Deceitfulness. Okay, predators are deceitful, and they can be, which means that they can either omit details that they should have said,
yep,
or they'll just flat out lie.
And then when you call them on it, they'll go, "What? Oh, what do you mean? No, that's not what I meant. You're just being mean to me. You're poor me. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. How dare you call me out on that? I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it." But yet it's like what they do every single day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. You guys, if there's a pattern and it's unhealthy, you need to recognize. You need to pause and recognize if it is an unhealthy pattern, and gather your composure and call them on it if it is an unhealthy pattern. I recently, so you guys already know my husband already came home. Okay, so recently my husband had this sort of pattern of the way he would communicate with me sometimes. When I would approach something that wasn't what he would like for me to be talking about, he would sort of shut down a little bit or change the subject or wouldn't give me eye contact. And I had to gather myself and say, "Honey, I've noticed that when I approach you regarding XYZ topic, that you divert my attention elsewhere and you avoid and you won't give me eye contact and you won't answer my question and you get very, 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 very defensive." Now, he had a choice in that moment. He could flip the tables on me, blame me, and tell me that I was backing him into a corner and blame me for everything and have it turn into an argument. But he didn't. I was terrified that he would because that's what I'm used to. But he said, I had no idea I did that. I needed to hear that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I didn't know. What can we back up? What was it that you need? What was it that you needed me to hear? I don't want you to feel this way. So let's fix this. And so he paused and he stepped back and he didn't explode at me when I called him on it, you guys. If someone is being predatory and you gather your composure and you actually gain the strength and the courage to confront them in a respectful way about it, like, "Excuse me, this is what I'm noticing," and they explode at you, that's a red flag. Bobby, your comments on that?
All of us have patterns of unhealthy behavior. All of us. I have patterns of unhealthy behavior. The difference between me and a predator is if Athena comes to me and says, "Bobby, I'm noticing this. I feel this when you do that." Sure, I might immediately feel some defensiveness. In fact, I might even, for a couple of minutes, be defensive in my behavior. But after a short period of time, I'm going to go back and, okay. I hear you. My relationship with you is important. So I'm going to listen. And then I'll listen again, and I'll be able to say, "Okay, I'm going to work on that. And this is what I'm going to do to work on that." Okay? So a predator will do exactly what Athena said. They'll get defensive. They'll flip the script. They'll shame you. They'll blame you. Someone who's not a predator is going to listen because they want you to have your needs met in the relationship as much as they want their needs to be met. Okay? Exactly. The complete opposite of a predator.
Yep.
Predators are passive aggressive. Okay, we talked about that earlier, the silent treatment. They have a lack of empathy. Okay, they don't understand how other people can suffer as much as they want you to understand that they suffer. They monopolize conversations. And this is a little bit like we talked about before with the person with the constant tale of woe. When someone tries to shift the conversation away from them, they'll raise their voice and overtalk that person, or they'll find a way to shift the conversation back to them. They are attention seeking. Okay? Predators will want your attention, and they will want your full and complete and undivided attention. And they will be threatened should you appear to be showing attention to someone else.
Yes. Predators
can be easy to anger because, again, they feel defensive. They'll jump into defensive mode. Or, in order to deflect attention from their bad behavior, they'll jump into blustery anger at you about something.
Yeah, they'll flip it on you. They'll pick out, well, you say that that's what I'm doing, but what about you? Well, what about what you do? You do this and you do this and you do this. And then they flip it on you because they need to make themselves feel better in that moment because their superiority is being compromised.
Right.
And threatened. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and this is a hard one because many survivors are afraid of anger. Anger feels dangerous to us because when we were growing up, anger often accompanied physical harm, emotional and verbal abuse. So when a predator gets angry at us, that can tend to shrink us down to that little child that we used to be, and we can fawn and submit and walk away, and the predator knows this. They know that, and that means they'll fly to that button to push anytime they feel threatened or you've done something that they don't like or they need to punish you. They'll push and stomp up and down on that button time and time again because they know it will get them what they want. Predators can be quick to judge, and they have very rigid beliefs and thinking. They know that only people who do this are good, only people who do that are bad.
Black and white.
Very black and white thinking, which leads them to being very quick to judge. And here's that component of punishment. They punish people who disagree with them or people who don't do their bidding. They'll withdraw their attention. A lot of times I'll see this, last week we talked about financial abuse. And this is where you'll see predatory behavior and financial abuse come hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes an abuser will have their victim dependent upon them financially. And if you don't do what they want, they either threaten to or they actually do withdraw their financial support. And you'll see this often at work, particularly in interpersonal domestic violence relationships. And the partner feels trapped because perhaps they have children and they have no means of supporting themselves. And so they will stay in that predatory relationship because they don't have financial options. The next one, an unwillingness to admit that they are wrong or they have flaws. And we just talked about that a little bit earlier up here. And then arrogance. And arrogance and narcissism go hand in hand. That's what narcissism really is all about, is me, 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 me. Pay attention to me, 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 me. And sometimes it's not blatant, that, show off kind of arrogance that we're used to. Sometimes it's that tale of woe. I want to be the center of attention. My
Yeah.
life is worse than your life. My story is worse than your story. Oh, well, you were just molested as a child? Well, I was raped 759 times. You know, it's an
Yeah.
arrogance, but it's not necessarily that, hey guys, I just made $5 million and, sold 25 Lexuses in 24 hours kind of arrogance.
Yeah, it's the one-upmanship.
There you go. Okay.
We have some questions, Bobby, and
Hit
I
me
want
with questions while I
okay.
move over.
Okay, cool. And I need to go grab my power cord in just a second. But Bobby's going to be switching over to the second one page because tonight's a 2-page. But I wanted to answer a question that someone asked regarding can predators or do predators feel quote unquote love for their victims? And I'm going to answer this very delicately, okay? Because there are several different types of predators, okay? Narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths, I want to say pathology, their disorder is in their personality. And what you and I feel and experience as love and kindness and relationship, and it's other-centered, and it's whole and it's pure, and there's not an ill intent there, and we're not predatory and using something to satisfy a need. That is love. It's patient and kind and other-centered, and it's not selfish. And so to answer this very specifically, if the predator is a narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath, and that is truly what they are through and through, no, they do not feel love. They are incapable of love. They're incapable of loving another human being. They only know how to suck someone else dry until they die so that they can fill their need. They only know how to be predatory. They only know how to manipulate. They only know how to twist and do whatever is necessary to fill their need, because their need is the only need that matters, and that is not a definition of love. Now, is there a definition or a level of predatory behavior where the person may be feeling love for another person? I would venture to say yes, it is possible that they may feel a version of love for you, but it is not the same experience that you are feeling when you are loved. Like, for instance, let's say you're a parent or you're a sibling, and just the love, the deep, deep, deep love that you have for your child or for your sibling is such a pure love that you would never in a million years dream of anything happening to that person, because it would shatter and torture you, because you want the best for them. You want them to succeed. You want to see their life fulfilled and their hopes and their dreams, and you want them to live their life to the fullest, and they matter. That is the pureness of your heart and your love for that person, whether it be your child or your sibling or your pet. Now that is love. That is true love. That's unselfish. That's other-centered. Is a predator that has predatory behavior capable of that type of love? If they're not a full-blown narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath, which we've already determined and concluded that no, they are not capable of it, I would venture to say that it's possible, but it's not probable. And if there's a split in their personality, like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of a situation going on, then there is a tipping point where they go from being a manipulator and a predatory individual to where they might be able to feel something that is akin to love, but it's not the love that you would experience being a non-predatory individual. Bobby, your comments on that?
You know, for some reason, my phone wants to be British tonight. I'm sending out words that have O-U-R instead of just O-Rs. Anyway, what I want to say is that, some people, we learned predatory behaviors growing up. And when we're under stress and strain, some of that predatory behavior will rise to the surface, because that is typical. When we're under stress, we revert to our most basic, our farthest back learned behaviors. And so people who under other circumstances normally would not be predatory can sometimes be predatory in a moment. Yes, they're capable of love and compassion. They've just temporarily lost their mind, so to speak. And I think that people who fall into predatory behaviors when they're feeling particularly vulnerable, or they need attention in a way they've not had it in a long time, yeah, I think they can be capable of love and compassion, but not full-blown narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, and not people who have a lot of those same qualities. I don't think they're capable. And in fact, one of the hallmarks of a narcissist, sociopath, and psychopath is that they're not capable of relating to other people. And if you can't relate to someone else, then you can't love them.
Exactly.
Just not there.
I think, Bobby, what you just said and what I said, I think there's such a common denominator there that we're trying to share with you guys, and that is that being able to place someone else's needs above your own and truly and deeply want the best for someone else, no matter if it benefits you or not, that is love. And predators are not capable of feeling that way because they don't know how to put other people ahead of them. They only know how to take.
Right. Yes. Amy is bringing up some excellent points. Amy is one of the leaders of Domestic Violence Chat. She's on the Twitter stream right now bringing up some absolutely excellent points about predators in DV relationships and interpersonal violence. So if you get a chance, if you're wondering about more signs of a predator in a DV relationship, Amy, her Twitter handle is amarie9619. Take those up, look those up, and follow along. She's doing a great job of giving some information out to our peeps. Right, do you want me to present to everyone, Athena, while you get your power cord?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So not only is the second page is all about what can you do to avoid falling prey to predators. So not only is it important to be able to identify predators before they take advantage of us, it's important to make ourselves as predator-proof as possible. And you can do that by following these tips. And the first one, and boy, do we talk about this a lot. I know you guys, you've heard it from us a million times, and you're probably going to hear it from us a million times more. Build up your self-esteem and your self-worth. The more that you know that you are valuable and you are worth treating well, the less that you will be susceptible to people who do not treat you well. The less you'll be susceptible to entering into a relationship with someone who does not consider your needs to be as valuable as their own. Okay? That key component of a healthy, loving relationship that Athena just brought up. So if you don't think you're worthy of that, then you're not going to watch for it. And if you don't think you're worthy of that, you're always going to put yourself in a one-down position entering into relationships. And that's where you're going to see the, oh, this person wants to be my friend. I feel lucky that they want to be my friend. They're not always nice to me, but not everybody wants to be my friend, and I'm probably not, really a good person. And so I'm going to take every friend that I can get. When I used to work with parents who had children who were at risk for delinquency and behavior that could get them into trouble, one of the things I always used to tell them was to do what they could to build up their child's self-esteem. Because otherwise, if their child doesn't feel loved, if their child doesn't feel like they're strong and worthy and capable, the first person that comes along and shines starlight in their eyes and tells them that they're wonderful is going to take their child on a trip down a path to damage, because the child will follow right along. And this is, unfortunately, I would see this a lot in young women who would be preyed upon by men. Men maybe 5, 10, 20 years older than them, because the child had never experienced, any kind of a healthy relationship. Maybe the father wasn't present in their life, or their father was an abusive man.
Yeah.
So getting your self-esteem up and strong and knowing you're worth being treated well is so important. And it will truly inoculate you against so much harm.
Well, yeah, because you'll have the courage to know the truth about yourself.
Right.
And, if you can stand, if you're not feeling wobbly and you're feeling solid, like you can stand on your own 2 feet, then you're not going to walk into that room staring down at the ground and then glancing up, hoping no one's looking at you. And then when you see someone looking at you and then they begin to flirt with you and then you fall for it, like that's not going to be your norm.
Right.
You'll feel more solid. Bobby, Julianne has a question.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure you and I would answer the exact same way, but I really want to, this is the heart of what I wanted to make sure that everybody heard tonight also. So says, it has been mentioned that if you have to ask yourself if you are a narcissist, then you are not. Does the same go for predators?
No. Some, yes. If you have to ask yourself if you're a sociopath or a psychopath or a narcissist, no.
Yeah, but if you have to ask yourself, wait a second, am I doing these other things? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not. It means that you're self-aware and that you have that it's a gleaming moment in history at that moment when you're actually asking yourself, because guess what? The fact that you're asking means that there's a choice.
Yes.
You have a choice. You actually have that moment in time when you can go, you know what? I think I might have these behaviors, and I'm going to actively choose to not have these behaviors as often as possible. And I will give you an example of this briefly. When Bobby was talking earlier about when you're in the situations in your life, right? Those situations in your life when you are susceptible to other people's sort of manipulative tactics. Like when I was susceptible to that person in the church,
right,
that said, it sounds like you feel a little bit neediness going on here or whatever, right? So my husband, who's a wonderful man, and I, who am not a predator, he'll say something to me or do something if I'm like hungry or if I haven't eaten or if I haven't slept, and I will bite his head off. I feel so sorry for that man. Oh my goodness. I mean, I can just be so ugly and unkind and rude and disrespectful and just hurtful. And does that make me a predator? No. But in that moment, when I am behaving in such a way toward my wonderful husband, who's not, meaning anything about something that he has said, that's an area of growth for me. That's me going, you know what? I need to make sure I don't allow myself to get hungry like this ever again, because my judgment is not so great. I need to make sure I get proper amount of sleep, make sure that I'm hydrated, make sure that I'm taking good care of myself, because guess what? My husband doesn't deserve to be treated that way. If he just innocently asks me a question or acts just a way that isn't, overly sweet, but he's just being himself, and then I bite his head off, does that make me a quote unquote predator? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that I was way out of line and probably really mean. And do I want to be a mean person? No, I don't. But in that moment, I got the opportunity to choose. Am I going to own this? Am I going to apologize for acting that way and make an effort to not be that way? Yeah, I think I'm going to own this, and I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to try not to do this anymore. So I hope that answers your question, Julianne. Bobby, your comments on that?
Well, I'm just responding to a comment from August that was very similar.
Okay.
Are predators consciously aware of what they are doing? Are they self-aware? And my response is some are and some aren't. That psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists can be very, very aware.
Oh, yeah.
Predatory. Very, very aware. But some others, not so much. And the category that I see this a lot in, and hang on here, the tweeting and talking thing, push the button, and away it goes. Okay. A lot of us, when our abuse was part of our family of origin, we were raised in homes where there was at least one individual that had a lot of narcissistic predatory qualities. And where do children learn how to behave? They learn in the home when they're children from their caretakers. So some of us learned patterns of behavior that are predatory that we had no clue. We grow up as adults. We do them all the time. We don't know that they're predatory. No one ever tells us. Maybe they're not, it's not like we're out, talking little old ladies out of their Social Security checks. Maybe it's more of when I get really angry, I take out my anger on every person around me.
Ooh.
And I put them down and I tell them to get out of my way, leave me alone. Well, I only get really angry, maybe once every 3 or 4 months. Okay, that's predatory behavior because I'm using someone else to meet my needs. I'm angry, so I'm going to put them down so I can feel more superior and buck myself up. It's predatory behavior. But yes. I didn't realize that. I learned that behavior from my abusive rageaholic father, but I didn't realize it. So
I want to share something, Bobby, on something that you just said. I'm gonna share right now. Okay, I'm sending the tweet. Again, not my strong suit. Okay, this is a perfect example of me not being a predator, but me being unhealthy at the time, guys. Okay. I was raised in an environment. If you've been following our channel for any length of time, you kind of know the environment I was raised in, like police activity, drugs, alcohol, lots of sex, pornography, etc. So I was raised in an environment that was very, what's the word? Illicit sex. Like you used your femaleness to get whatever it was that you needed at all costs. Period. 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 If your kid needed school clothes, you figured out a way to get those school clothes. If you wanted to go here, you figured out a way to go there. And typically using beauty or femininity as a manipulative tactic was something that I learned. Did I know that it was wrong? No, I didn't know that that was wrong. That's all I knew. I lived an isolated life. Did I feel like it was right as a child? No, I knew that I wasn't happy and that my life was crazy and that I didn't feel safe, but I didn't know that A, B, and C equaled, X, Y, and Z. I didn't know that female femininity, manipulation, sort of like, I honestly didn't look at myself in the mirror and think that I was pretty. I didn't think that I was seductive. I didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't think any of those things. I just didn't. I was told that I was a piece of shit. I was told that I was a lazy ass. I was told that I looked like a whore. I was told horrible, horrible things. So I didn't have a healthy self-esteem. And I didn't know what God said about me and that I was beautiful and I was this and I didn't know anything, right? So as I was getting older, you guys, now this is where it comes into play, what I want to share. As I got older, I began to notice that men paid attention to me. And I liked it. I felt treasured and cared about and important and loved and taken care of and safe. All the things I never felt when I was a child.
Right.
And I didn't know that was a weapon that I could use. I didn't know. I was a little child given a big, huge sword. And when you give a little child a big, huge sword, they wobble around with it. And when the sword drops, someone gets beheaded. And so let me just tell you right now that when I was in all of my femaleness and I was getting all this attention, I didn't know that I was going to be breaking people's hearts. I didn't know that I was going to be, if I broke up with someone, that they were going to be devastated. And I didn't know that if I, dated this person and dated that person and that it was wrong. Like, I was raised in that environment. You always dated more than one person at a time. Like, I didn't know that was wrong. I just did not know, you guys. I had no relational capabilities whatsoever. I was socially inept, 1000%. If there was a social ineptness like gauge, I was in the negative. I did not know how to function socially at all. So I wielded that feminine sword of mine, and every now and again, that hammer would drop and someone would get beheaded, you guys, because I broke some hearts. I used my feminineness to my advantage because I was in awe of the fact that I was actually pretty to someone. I could not believe that. Now, is that a healthy way for me to behave? No. In fact, it was just wrong. I broke people's hearts. I did not know that I was, but I did. I behaved in a way that was not right, okay?
It's predatory.
Now, it was predatory. I broke their hearts. I allowed them to believe that they were as special to me as I was to them. Does that make me a predator now, present day? No. I would say no. Because no. I didn't know the power. Well, I didn't know. I wasn't using it to feel powerful and using it to hurt people on purpose. I was kind of dumb. I mean, I don't want to say I'm so innocent, I'm so sweet, because obviously I manipulated, and I didn't even know I was manipulative, but I was. But
you were ignorant.
I was ignorant.
You were ignorant of what you were doing.
Yeah.
Because that's what you had been taught.
Exactly.
And when you're steeped in that environment, how the heck are you supposed to know different?
Yeah.
How are you? You're not, and that's where getting into community with safe, supportive people who can look at you and go, did you ever stop to consider that maybe what you're doing is predatory? Or maybe what you're doing is not going to get you what you're really looking for?
Yeah.
Can I help you learn a different way? A lot of predatory behavior is about getting a sense of control and a sense of being important.
Yeah.
And we can feel in control of our lives, and we can feel important in a whole lot more healthy ways.
And you guys, I didn't even know that what I was doing was wrong until somebody called me out on it. And I want to mention this, okay? If you are still within the grasp of your manipulators and of your predators, chances are you are not going to be able to stop those behaviors in and of yourself, because you're not going to realize that they're wrong, because your abusers and your predators that you're around foster an environment of manipulation and predatory behavior. That's just what they do. Once I moved to Maui, away from my abusers, and someone called me out on my behavior because I signed my email to someone XOXO. Like, like, just like, I thought it was innocent, but I mean, this woman was like, you just signed an email to my husband, XOXO, and I would appreciate it if you would never do that again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Like, I literally was numb to the fact that XOXO to someone's husband was probably not a smart idea. Like, freaking duh, Athena. Hello, who would do that? Like, just dumb. Like, I was just, you guys, I just didn't freaking get it. But guess what? When people called me out on my behavior, I actually did something about it. I owned it, you guys. I righted those wrongs. I sent messages and called people, apologized personally. Hey, I behaved some really crappy ways. I hope you'll forgive me someday. I mean, it's that whole, like, I know in 12-step they call it cleaning up your side of the street. You guys, unless you are willing to clean up your side of the street and actually own your stuff, yeah, there's a chance that you're going to have some predatory behaviors. If you take responsibility for your own actions and you own your stuff, then you're headed in the right direction to not being a predator, if you're doubting if you have predatory capability. Bobby, your comments on that?
Boom!
I love it.
There you go. Sums that up in one word.
Yay! Thank you.
That's kind of interesting because that ties into what's next on our list of things that you can do. Be clear about what your values are so that you can avoid people who disrespect them. If you know that you value being treated with compassion, then when someone else treats you with unkindness, a lack of compassion, you can say, no, that doesn't work for me. But when we don't know what our values are, when we're just kind of floating around in the world, unclear about what we want and who we are, it's a lot easier for people to prey upon us because we are not anchored in anything. What is that saying that people say? If you don't stand for something, you can fall for anything.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. That's what's at play. Build up your independence and your self-sufficiency. This will make you less susceptible to being dependent on someone else. You'll hear this one time and time again for people who have cliched advice that goes out to someone who's just broken up in a relationship. Well, you need to just be single a while so you can learn who you are. Okay, that's a cliche, and it smacks of a lack of compassion and understanding. But there's a kernel of truth in that. The more that we are able to stand on our 2 feet and be independent and be self-sufficient, the less likely we are going to be to fall victim to someone who wants to swoop in on their white steed and solve our problems and rescue us and thereby have us under their complete control and take advantage of us.
Yeah.
And all of these, of course, are easier said than done. Step by step, step by step. Heal your intuition and honor it when it tells you someone is out to harm you. Again, like that check in your gut, that gut feeling. We have a video and a 1-page about healing your intuition. So check those out for more information. Ask your safe support system to let you know if they feel someone that you enter into a relationship with is predatory. Okay, that's whether it's a friend, a business partner, a romantic relationship. Keep that line of communication open with your safe support system and let them know if you see something in someone that I'm not seeing, could you please bring that to my attention? And along these lines, big, huge red flag. If someone insists that you cut off your friendships with your safe support system, walk the other way. Never, 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 never allow someone to isolate you away from your safe support system.
Ooh, and Bobby, just on that topic of what you just said, what you said hit a little light bulb moment for me, okay?
Okay.
So if anyone out there in our community is struggling with, oh my goodness, am I a predator? Which was my biggest fear of doing this special. I didn't want anyone to think, you know, that they're actually a predator, even though they're the ones that were preyed upon, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. This is a really good thing that you just mentioned, Bobby, and that is, if you have a safe circle of people that know you're looking to learn and grow into a person that is a fully functioning member of society, you're looking to learn and grow and become whole, and you're going through your recovery journey from child abuse, and you say the words that Bobby said a few moments ago, and that is, if you notice these behaviors in me, would you please bring them to my attention so that I can be more aware of them? I have a deep desire to grow, and I don't want to be this way. Will you please call me out on this stuff? I really need it. And you know what? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. If someone really cares about your character and really cares about your growth and cares about your future, they will say absolutely, unequivocally, yes, I will. In the moment, it might be uncomfortable. In the moment, it might hurt your feelings. But I care more about you than I do making you feel good. And so, yes, I will bring those things to your attention, and I will call you out on those. Thank you for giving me a safe space to do that.
And by the same token, if you say to them, I think I might be predatory in something I do, I think it's this. Can you give me your feedback? When they look you in the eye and they say, not a snowball's chance in hell, accept that.
Yeah, believe them.
Accept that. Believe them. And take into your heart the fact that they are giving you the feedback that the honest and loving feedback that you need to let go of that fear.
Yeah.
Learn your blind spots, okay? Those subjects or circumstances where you are particularly vulnerable to manipulation. For example, one of my blind spots is when I'm feeling emotionally, and I'm going to use the word unstable because I can't think of anything else, but not, pathologically unstable. But when I'm feeling a little shaky, I'm vulnerable to predators who use love bombing. Okay, I know that. So in those instances when I'm feeling that way, I'm going to be particularly vigilant. I know it didn't sound right, but I couldn't get it out.
Those two words are they should be combined right now anyway.
Okay, and this next one, it's important because it allows. It opens some of us up to predatory behavior. Avoid alcohol in social situations if it muddies your thinking and lowers your defenses. Okay, big disclaimer here, I'm not victim blaming. Okay, I'm not saying if you have a drink that you are responsible for someone taking advantage of you. All I'm saying is that you are responsible for having a clear head so you can make good decisions. So if drinking leads to you not having a clear head, then you should not drink in situations where you could be around people who would take advantage of that. I'm not sure I even said that really well.
No, but you did. You did. We're not saying that if you had something to drink that it's okay if somebody rapes you. We are saying that if you are in a situation that could be a predatory situation and you know that it's a predatory situation, allow that to be a moment where you breathe and go, you know what? I'm not going to go down this route right now. I'm going to stay diligent and vigilant. And I'm going to stay fully clear, and I'm going to enjoy being sober so that I can make excellent decisions and not allow myself to be victimized further and fall into a predatory situation because I'm desensitized from prior manipulation and prior vulnerable situations that I fell prey to. So is that mirror what it was that you said, Bobby?
Yes.
Okay.
If that could be one of your blind spots, then
yeah,
shine a light. And here you go. Once you see that someone is predatory, extricate yourself from your relationship with them immediately. And by far the most effective way to extricate yourself from a predator is to go no contact. I'm done. That's it. Your number's blocked. I don't respond to your phone calls, your text messages, your Facebook messages. I'm just done. You're gone.
I want to say something about that though, Bobby.
Yes.
I want to add to that actually. So, many of you that are on this channel are perhaps in co-parenting situations with narcissists. We met you through the narcissistic abuse virtual event, which was a 4-hour event back in August with Bree Bonchet and Richard Grannon. And perhaps you are in a co-parenting situation where you do not have the glorious, glorious gift of no contact. You have to remain in contact with this person because they are the mother or father of your child. And for 18 years, and sometimes even after that, like on, weddings and funerals and sometimes holidays and whatever, depending on your living situation, however far away, you might still be in contact with this predator, this narcissist, this sociopath, this psychopath, whoever, whatever the pathology might be. Okay, guys? If you can't go no contact, please just be mindful and have healthy boundaries. Do not allow yourself to be further victimized by this person by allowing them to consume you. Assert healthy boundaries. When you send me text messages at this hour of the night, I feel you are violating my privacy. I need you to not do that anymore. And if you continue to send me multiple text messages at all hours of the night, I will need to block your number unless it's on a day that I know you're coming to pick up our child. Just assert that boundary, guys. Or have one of those throwaway phones that says, this is the telephone number you are allowed to reach me on. You are no longer allowed to reach me on this other telephone number. Okay, you might not have the luxury of buying a $15 throwaway telephone. I understand that, but I'm telling you, if there's anything you can possibly do, in all the wisdom that my son had when he was, I think, 10 years old, he literally said to his dad on the day after Christmas, I don't like the way you speak with me. I feel unimportant and small. I think for a while we should just communicate on email. My son was 10 years old. I am telling you, I was terrified when he said that to his dad. And when he hung up, he was terrified and he was shaking and I hugged him. And you want to know something? That was the strongest, bravest thing he ever did. And he honored himself in all of his 10 years of wisdom. 10 years old. I don't like the way you speak with me. I think we should just email for a while. I'm telling you, he's modeled that behavior for me. I talk about learning from your children. I have done the same thing with the narcissists in my own life. And I learned it from my 10-year-old.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. I learned a boundary from my 10-year-old who just naturally, in the safety of his own home, told someone who was being, he was being abusive. He was being verbally abusive. I don't like the way you speak with me. I think we need to just email for a while. And you know what, guys? That's quite all right. That is a mode of communication. It is. And, these things can be very, very sticky if you're in a co-parenting situation. We're not minimizing your situation at all. But I just wanted to throw that in there, Bobby. I just wanted to add to that. Because no contact is the dream. No contact
it is.
It's like the cloud nine. It's awesome.
Right. We have someone on the Twitter chat who's unhappy with us because they feel that we are shaming anger I want to clarify there's nothing wrong with anger. The problem is the behavior that people choose to engage in when they're angry. I apologize if it seems that we did not clarify that correctly. I assure you there is nothing wrong with anger. Anger can be a very healthy emotion. It can, in fact, be very powerful when we're in recovery. But when we allow anger to motivate us to behave in unhealthy ways, that is the problem. The behavior is the problem. The anger itself is not the problem.
Yeah, there is a righteous anger that all of us are entitled to, you guys. It is not okay that we were exploited and abused as children. It's not okay that we were molested or raped or beaten or sold or lent out or any of those things. Those things are not okay. And they make me angry when I think about them now, to this day. Now, does that anger mean that I have a hall pass for life and I get to go take out butcher knives and slice up all the people that hurt me in my life? No, probably not. Well, I would have to pay the price. I'd get to go to prison. So we're not saying that anger is bad. We're saying that acting on your anger in a way that is unhealthy and exploiting others at the expense of your own anger is unhealthy.
Yeah. And they also told us to stop demanding that victims forgive. I don't think we said that.
Is it possible that they're just using the No More Shame hashtag?
No.
Did they tag us?
Yes, they're talking to us.
Oh.
Anyway, just to clarify, we've never, and in fact, we've done a video about forgiveness. Forgiveness is every survivor's individual choice.
Yeah,
forgiveness. And we support that 100%. It's your choice. It's your recovery, your choice. And the last little thing that I want to say here before I stop sharing the one page is this very last sentence. The longer you are in a relationship with serious predators, the more dangerous the situation can become. If you are in an interpersonal relationship with a predator who has qualities of a sociopath, a psychopath, a narcissist, if they have someone who, if they're very controlling, they like to have that power dynamic, please, when you are ready to extricate yourself from the relationship, get help. Call the domestic violence hotline, engage a safe support system to help you leave. Leaving an intimate relationship with a predator is the most dangerous time for any victim. It's not while you're in the relationship, it's when you're trying to leave it, because the predator feels so threatened and they feel so out of control and they feel like they're losing power, which is what they live, thrive, and breathe on. That's when victims of predatory behavior end up getting killed more often than at any other time in a relationship with a predator.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see those signs of predatory behavior, walk away. And if you have been manipulated into a long-term relationship, please get support and help when you choose to leave so that you can leave safely. I really want to emphasize that. I worked doing some social work in a domestic violence shelter for a while, and that was one of the saddest statistics that we ever learned, was that the most dangerous point for a victim is when they try to leave.
Yeah.
So get help. Don't try and do it alone.
Yeah, don't try to do it all by yourself, you guys. I think some people had some trouble with the live stream tonight. They said that it was freezing up. We're looking into some different software, you guys, just so you know. For 2016, I've been looking into different software that's not Google Hangouts. But I'll have to let you guys know what we decide, what we choose to do, because having difficulties with audio and video every single week is kind of not really an option if we're trying to do this professionally. So, uh, Bobby, any parting, I know you always laugh when I say this, any parting thoughts, Bobby, for our audience tonight?
Any parting gifts?
Lovely parting gifts.
Yeah, I see, Wheel of Fortune. That's it.
Yes.
Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
Have the lovely parting gift. But this is such a hot topic, and I know we didn't do our normal contact information, et cetera, like we always do, guys. But we wanted this to be packed full of content for you. 2 hours of content, solid. And the topic of predators is not something that they're, like we were saying last week, there weren't a lot of resources online in this sort of medium that were readily available to me when I was doing research. I mean, I obviously have books, and there's the DSM-5, Bobby, where you read what the technical definition is to a predator, and
right.
But we really want this to be relatable to you guys. That's why you're on YouTube. That's why you're here and you're on Twitter, because social media has afforded us the opportunity to reach more people with a message that is easily digestible in different mediums, because some people they learn better in 140 characters. They learn better in a YouTube video. They learn better on Roku TV, where they can pause, fast forward, et cetera, or whatever, and they can interact and ask questions. So we want to make ourselves available to you in ways that you find helpful. And if you have suggestions for us for more topics for 2016, please send us an email to nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. Bobby, do you have anything you wanted to share with everybody before we go tonight?
I just want to let everyone know that next week we are talking about self-talk. Again, a really important topic, because how we talk to ourselves often can determine what kind of day we have, what kind of experience we have, and how well our recovery is going. So we're going to unpack that one next week. So if you're watching this on recording, then just pop over and watch the next video. If you're watching us live, then come back next week. And we're going to talk all about self-talk.
Yeah, and I'm excited about self-talk, obviously, for many reasons. But Bobby and I talk a lot off the air about self-talk as well, because you guys, I mean, I can't be the only adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse that has these shitty tapes that play, and I hear these messages of, like we were talking about tonight during this broadcast, I was told that I was a lazy ass, and that I was ugly, and that I was fat, and that I was clumsy, and that I looked like a whore, and I was told all those things. And so I had a moment yesterday when I was cleaning the house. I had all these really crappy tapes playing in my head, and they had my husband's voice on them. I knew he wasn't thinking those thoughts about me while I was cleaning. It's usually when I'm cleaning the house, because I was the one who was always in charge of the chores. And so I paused. I caught myself this time, you guys, which is a huge area of growth for me. I caught myself, and do you want to know what I did? I told my husband, honey, I think I need you to say something to me. I think I need you to say something sweet, or tell me what you're thinking of me right now. And he said, well, I think you're beautiful, and I think you're amazing, and the house looks awesome. And yeah, I was like, thanks. I needed to hear that, because all I'm thinking in my head is that he didn't like the outfit I had on, and that I was lazy, and I wasn't doing enough, and the chores weren't being done right, and blah. Like, those were the voices I was hearing, you guys. That was the self-talk I was allowing myself to have, because that was the old tapes playing, and they take on whatever voice I want them to, or whatever voice they decide to take on. I don't even know. Like, sometimes they sound like my mother, sometimes they sound like me, and sometimes they sound like my husband, sometimes they sound like Bobby. And hello, Bobby's like the sweetest ever. So sometimes you just gotta like pause and catch yourself and ask someone, could you please just maybe talk to me? I think I need to hear some truth right about now. What are you thinking about me, about the job I'm doing, about whatever? Like, I'm kind of struggling right now. And if they care about you, they will pause what they're doing, and they'll help you out in that moment, because they care. And then it'll help your self-talk. So pull that all back around. What do you think, Bobby?
I think that's good. But what I like is that you brought up that point one more time. If someone loves you, they're going to want to stop and help you, given that their pants are not on fire or, their child is choking. They'll stop and say, okay, what you need is important to me. I love you. You're important. How can I help? So once again, that sign of a healthy relationship, when your needs are important to them, when they have your best interest at heart. If those qualities are not a part of a significant relationship in your life, as you said earlier, that's a cause for pause.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Bobby. I needed to hear that. So again, guys, we love coming to you every single week. This was a very special 2-hour broadcast on the topic of predators because, like we said very tongue-in-cheek jokingly previously, nothing says Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays like predators. But no, this is very, very important that we educate you guys and have this very honest, open discussion on this topic. We want to dispel the lies. We want to talk about the things you might be thinking and replace that with the truth. And we really want to help you guys work your way through recovery so you can make healthy choices and not fall prey to other predators out there. That is the heart of why we do this. We don't want you to be re-victimized. We want you to be equipped.
Well, we've met our quota of being victimized. No more. No more. So That's what we want for you.
Yeah, we want you guys to be equipped with everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery, which just so happens to be our tagline. So I'll go ahead and end with that. I'm Athena Moberg. This is Bobby Parrish, and we love you guys. We'll see you next week as we bring up the topic and discuss it openly and answer your questions on the topic of self-talk. See you then. Aloha.